Welcome to the Investor Agent Synergy Podcast, where real estate investors and agents come together to build partnerships, create value, and achieve more together. Whether you're an agent looking to unlock new opportunities or an investor seeking the right partnerships, this is the place to learn, grow, and connect. This podcast is proudly sponsored by New Hampshire Homebuyers, a trusted leader in local house buying since 2017. With over 100 glowing reviews and a commitment to being local, fair, and trusted, New Hampshire Homebuyers helps homeowners throughout New Hampshire and Massachusetts sell their homes in any condition. Now, let's dive into the podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Investor Agent Synergy Podcast, episode number 6. Hi, Shelly.
Hello.
I can't believe we're at number 6 already.
I know.
We have a very special guest today. Oh, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
No, go ahead. You're good.
I talk really fast and talk a lot. The caffeine's kicking in. We have a very special guest today we're really excited to share with you today, and her name is Shannon Henderson. Shannon, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
If you could tell us or tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do, and give us a little bio on you, if you could, please.
Sure. I run a team out of the greater Boston area for real estate called the Prosperity Group. And really, the name says it all. We are a team that is led through service and helping others to be successful. I was in the executive roles for years, building teams for big brands in retail. And I was known for, being able to pull people out of the trenches and rebuild teams. And I think I've brought a lot of that into this business. And so, I do a lot of coaching and so forth, not only for agents, but for our clients. So anyway, we do commercial and residential real estate. My specialty is really in the investing area, but certainly I have my hands in everything. We do business sales as well as, small scale flips all the way to larger scale apartment buildings, hotels, things like that. So, so that's a little bit. I've been in the business for, let's see, my son turns 25 this year. So I got my license in 2000, right around the time that he was born, and had a construction company at the time while I was dual careering. So if anybody is like, how do I get out of this corporate world? You can do it. And worked in that business for years, loved it. And then probably about 8 years ago, I said, you know what? I'm making people millions of dollars, and I'm leaving my kids at home a lot because I traveled. And I decided to open up my own real estate team. And I do work under another brokerage. I like to leverage their programs and things like that. But I really love every day. The only thing I have a complaint about is I don't have enough time to get everything I want to get done.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that.
All right, so we're going to ask you some questions. I think we already talked about a few of them, but what's a deal or transaction that has really challenged you and helps you grow in real estate?
Yeah, so I think it's not so much about the deal, it's about the client. So the challenge comes when you haven't taken the time to really understand who's in front of you and what they're looking for, and you waste a lot of time. I am obsessive compulsive about my calendar and about the time that I am spending with people, really getting to know what they want so that I can be very efficient in that, because that's what keeps people engaged, right? So, as far as deals that are challenging, I will give you an example because that's your question, but I'd say understanding who's in front of you is first. For sure. To avoid challenges. But we did a project in Melrose. Now it's been, maybe 4 years ago. And it was a Victorian, and there was a couple who had lived there for 40-something years.
Wow.
And lovely couple. And they, the walls were falling in a little bit. Yeah. It was beautiful, great location.
Delayed maintenance on the property.
Yes. So it was an off-market deal. Yeah. And, this business is all about relationships. So I did get a call from an agent who knew we're kind and efficient and we'll get the job done. So we brought one of our clients in to take a look. It was a first-time investor. They had never invested before. And we walked them through the process, and we took what was a very distressed property, which, as mentioned, I really love distressed properties because we can do so much to
Me
it.
too, by the way.
Yeah, yes. And pulled in some of our trusted, contractors, and we mapped it out. We knocked down walls, we removed fireplaces, and it is absolutely, it turned out to be a gorgeous property, and they made a nice profit, which they're still my clients today. We're actually shopping for them.
That's awesome.
It's a doctor
Love that.
and his fiance. He's
Wow.
actually a surgeon. So,
Wow.
they pop in, check on it, If you're an agent, beware of working with surgeons. And David, I love you to death to this day, but they will notice every wall
Yeah.
that is not aligned perfectly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have plenty of funny stories, but it's very rewarding seeing a property that is distressed and see it turn around.
100%.
And the best part is this, and I actually just left somebody's house yesterday that I helped in South End in Boston sell a house they had been in for 60 years. The best part is when you have the power to walk that family back in that house that had to give it up at a good price. And again, I believe in win-win. So we're
Yeah.
not out to,
Right.
take somebody's property at an unfair price. I believe in karma, and I'm Christian, so I'm not
Yeah,
going to do
we're
that.
the same way.
So, but to walk that family in after, and they can see what was distress, and it gives them a peace. Like,
Yeah.
wow, look at this. I mean, people cry.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like you should always be thinking in terms of both parties.
course.
It's not just about, and there's a lot of investors out there that they will take advantage of sellers.
Yeah.
And I advocate on behalf of everyone, honestly.
As you should,
So,
yeah. I mean, we're very, as home buyers ourselves and investors ourselves, that's something we're very, very passionate with. One of the things we're most proud of over the years with our New Hampshire home buying brand is, now we're over 100 Google reviews.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include our Facebook reviews and written testimonials and video testimonials over the years. So, what's great about that is that these are all coming from sellers that have sold the house to us, right?
Yeah.
So it shows that validity and credibility that we're really truly trying to help people out of tough situations. Of
Yeah.
course, we got to get the house at a number that makes sense so we can make money off of it. But typically, majority of the time, everybody's super happy with the result because we're solving a big problem for them.
Yeah.
Really trying to help them out of their situation. And sometimes when they do come back to see the house, they love it. They
Yeah.
realize they were never going to be able to do that,
Yeah.
but they have emotional attachment to the property, and to see it renovated and for another family to enjoy for many years to come is a great rewarding feeling for them. And then on top of that, you've helped them out of a tough situation. Myself, I don't want to get a sidetrack, but in 2009, I was one of the people that was hit really hard by the recession, and I was on the brink of foreclosure and bankruptcy. And it was actually a real estate investor that came in and saved me from all that and gave me a reset button in life. And honestly, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
And we have the ability in what we do to pay that forward. And a lot of the reason why we're having this podcast is because we want to show that there's sometimes a disconnect between traditional agents and traditional investors, not seeing how we could collaborate, helping each other. And obviously, as an experienced agent yourself and an investor, you're providing tons of value out there on all different levels, which is just amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're in the middle of a deal now. Same thing. They've been in for 40 years, off market, and going back to bringing them back into the property. That has everything to do with respect. Like
Yeah.
when my grandparents passed away, it was the house that I had grown up in, and I'm not going to cry on camera, but it was the house that I grown up in. It was the stability that I didn't have anywhere else. And when they passed and we had to sell it, like every time I'm walking with somebody who's selling their house, I remember what it
Yeah.
feels
How
like.
that feels.
Yeah, and you have to respect this is not just an investment opportunity. This is
Right.
a person.
Yeah.
This is a family. These are memories.
Yeah, we have an example similar to that. It was someone that we knew. Her grandmother. It was time to sell her house
After living there for like 50 years.
Yeah, and the girl, she lived there with her grandmother a lot of the time. She spent a lot of the time there. The same things you're saying. So we do video updates on our Facebook page and everything
The
during the
renovations.
renovation
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
And they were watching it the whole time together, and she was able to like come back and see it at the end. And
Yeah.
I always say to Jeremy, like when we're trying to remember deals that we've done over the years, I never can remember it by really the deal or the house. I'm just like, I remember the story of the person that
situation.
lived there and
Yeah.
the situation. And I always say, oh, that was Flo, or that was this lady. I just remember the people. So I'm completely agree with you on all of that. That's really the most important part of
Yeah.
all of it.
And Shannon, one of the biggest takeaways of what you just said, I think is really important for anybody listening. This is something we're passionate about with our coaching brand, with investing as well, is you're coming from a place of empathy,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
the thought that you bring in this childhood memory and how you feel, you're empathizing with somebody going through that situation. Empathy is a key of really helping people in the situation. It is an investment, but you have to separate the two. And if you come from a place of empathy like that, you are definitely going to get a lot more deals because you are helping a lot more people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But on the other hand, we have to be smart. So I always think in terms of certainly servicing, but there are sellers out there that they're so emotionally connected to the house that they don't understand that this house is not worth that amount of money. So
Sure.
sitting down and giving them the numbers, helping them see that this is going to help them, because they can get in their own way and lose the house
Yeah.
because they're so caught up in they should get a certain number. So presenting those numbers is important. And then on the investor side, I mean, we run full spreadsheets, analysis, you name it.
Yeah.
So you know what you're getting today, what you can get based on a few phases of remodeling,
Right.
and what the ARV is going to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So when did you first realize the potential of working with investors?
Oh, well, I started with myself. Right.
Right.
Yes. My ex-husband and I, buying our first home, like we couldn't afford a lot back then, even though I made decent money, a lot of
Yeah.
the same circumstances as people have today. And, so he had the skills of the construction. So we really did look for rehab projects so that we could build some equity ourselves. So,
Yeah.
buy something at a lower cost and rebuild. So really started with myself. But I mean, the passion comes around all the stories that we're telling today. Like that's what fills me up
Yeah.
is it's all the people that we help. Because when I started the Prosperity Group, it really was about changing lives and being kind but being scrappy. I sound really nice, and I am, but I'm also very competitive in
Yeah.
making sure that we get to deals first for our clients, and we do that through our relationships. If you pick up the phone and talk to agents that I've worked with or that we keep in our network, there's a lot of respect there and honesty, and that's really what keeps us, I think, ahead of everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
Can you share a time when an investor partnership led to a creative or unexpected deal structure?
You're tripping me up on that question. An unexpected deal structure.
Yeah,
creative
maybe just
deal,
tell us
maybe.
about a time you partnered up with an investor and how it maybe worked for you in a positive or negative way.
That sounds good.
Oh, okay. Well, years back, I actually went into a deal with relatives. And
It started to sound positive already.
I'm like,
yes, with
How's that?
relatives.
I think we all know where this is
and-
going.
This is way back. This is years ago. This is the transparency. I put a lot of trust in the contractor that we had hired at the time, and it was a remote deal. And a relative of mine had put money up for this deal. And there was a lot of trust in me, and they weren't doing the job. They were not doing it, and I was at such a distance. And this was, oh my goodness, 20 years ago. But it sticks with me to this day. I wasn't checking on it, like I should, and ended up losing all of that relative's money, essentially.
Yeah.
And did pay them back eventually, because
yeah.
that's my responsibility.
Yeah,
But,
I love that.
the accountability piece, and again, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
But it's funny how on our own deals, like even one of the girls on my team, she owns Airbnbs and has owned them for years, and hired somebody that she knew that was at a distance managing it, and showed up there and it was a disaster.
Yeah.
They had been telling them 2 stories. So,
Oh, no.
so that's the accountability piece. So I can't say that I have a specific answer to that question.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you just really have to have checkpoints and be on the ball as far as making sure that things are on schedule and things are happening the right way, and that you're editing out the people that
Yeah.
don't deserve to be there, and you're adding in the people who do.
Which can be hard at first. I feel like we kind of settled for certain contractors for a while, or certain things, and we settled for things that we would never these days. But I think that just comes with experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
learning the
over
hard
time.
way, unfortunately.
And learning the hard way a lot.
Usually
Yes.
by losing money.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's true. People are very quick to go to friends or people they want to help.
Yeah.
And,
It's like the first thing you
listen,
do.
It happened in my own house. Anyway, we're not going to, let's stay out of those areas, but you learn to be okay with saying, no, this is not the right
Yeah.
person.
I
need
agree.
to really focus on quality.
Yeah.
We don't have to hire everyone that we know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the same for realtors. So,
Yeah.
you
It's a
you
good
really
lesson.
have to look for people who are aligned with what your goals are
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really understand that.
I think it's really
sure.
common for people to want to hire family and friends first because that's who you know and trust. But the reality is, more times than not, it's not in your best interest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
a good lesson. All right, question here: what's a myth about working with investors that more agents should know the truth about?
Oh, they think it's harder than it is. I'll be honest. If they just use basic skills and the questions and answers that they need to collect, then it gives them a perfect roadmap to be able to deliver that. So that's one myth is they think, oh my gosh, that's too much for me, or
Yeah.
I'm not a numbers person. And actually, that is a truth. If you're going to work with investors, you need to understand numbers. You definitely have to understand numbers. And on the flip side, there's a whole population that think that it is so easy. I've sat in on, I go to some of the summits and things like that because you're going to pick something up from every one of those
Yeah.
meetings where people are teaching investing and wholesaling, things like that. But I sit there and I honestly want to save half the population because they're paying 20 grand and they have
Star
these
eyes.
stars
Yeah.
in their eyes and
Delusions
they
of grandeur.
just told their story of that they're paycheck to paycheck, but they're writing this huge check. I mean, our classes, and granted, let me just tell you, I should be charging for what I do. I should, meaning for classes and coaching and things like that. But I feel that if I put myself out there and I'm helping people, the money is going to come, and it has. It's been really good. But to ask somebody for such an amount out the gate, and there's a lot of people who are going to disagree with me and they're going to be mad that I'm even saying this, but I don't think it's necessary to to make people get into that type of situation right out the gate. I mean, it's like gambling, okay? Vegas. You put down a $5 chip first and you work your way up. They can start with baby steps to test the waters because they're going to be your referral. They're going to be the person leaving their experience somewhere. So you have to be very careful. And where I'm going is some people are not cut out for it. They're sitting there. They're talking about their lifestyle. They're talking about this and that, but they're ready to write the check. And that's great, but they're going to face plant.
Right, because
Yeah,
they're not going
that's
to put in the
true.
work.
They're not going to put in the work. Exactly. So I think there needs to be a certain structure to that type of stuff.
All right, love it. What are some key strategies you use to find and build trust with investors?
Well, I mean, my reputation is everything. So key strategies is just making sure that, I stay in touch with my circle of agents, of friends, family, previous clients. Most of my business comes from referrals. But, it's getting out there, going, where they are to engage and let them know I'm a regular person. I'm a single mom, I'm out there, busting my what to make things happen. But I think it's just really engaging with people on a regular basis in all different types of situations. So they remember you.
Yeah.
And the key is you have to stay in touch with them because they're going to forget you next week.
Yes, that's for sure.
So how can you kind of stay in touch with them?
I love that. So you've been doing this for some time now, so you obviously have a great experience as an investor and as an agent. So I'd like to get your perception on both sides of this coin here. Why do you think many agents choose not to work with investors, or why do you feel like they maybe are afraid to work with investors?
Because nobody has sat down and told them they could do it. I mean, half the time. I mean, I'm thinking about my own team. They had no experience at all. One's an artist, one's worked with philanthropic groups, another one was from the healthcare industry. They had no experience whatsoever, but they had the competencies. Like anyone, there are certain competencies you can write down on a piece of paper that you can be successful in doing this.
Yep.
But there's also a level of coaching and helping people get out of their own heads that needs to happen. And it's just like magically, once that light bulb goes off, like there's no stopping them, but there also has to be, again, checkpoints to make sure that they're not going down the wrong path. And you have to let them go down the wrong path for just a second so they can learn and self-assess. But I think it has a lot to do with just believing, the power of belief.
I like that. So on the other side of the coin, why do you think investors are maybe reluctant to collaborate or work with an agent?
Oh, because we have, I actually tell my team, don't introduce yourself as a realtor. Don't say I'm a realtor, because it's just an immediate shutdown. Because again, there's in any industry, there are people who approach it with integrity and trustworthy, and then there are certain ones that don't. And I think that we've received a bad name, not only from probably people's experiences with agents who either A, weren't present, they weren't available, they sold them everything in the front and then they disappeared. And then obviously with the news, the press. So that's something that we battle on a regular basis, because the press loves a good story, and so they're going to pull out of the trenches the worst case scenario, which has been, of course, something recently that we've faced. So the number one question is always like, so tell me about that commission thing, or so that's something that we are navigating now, because the truth is commissions have always been negotiable in every way, and if that agent explained it that way, they would have known that, So those are my thoughts there.
So with that being said, some of the hesitancies, in your opinion, what are the benefits from an agent working with an investor?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a long list. So the first thing is we're highly connected with what's happening every day. Like, this is what we do. I get up, I look at what's on the market, I look at what's happening in the news, I look at the stocks, I look at the whole 360 of what's happening. And then, we know our numbers. We know where to go for the resources. Again, quickly. Time, as you know, as an investor, is the most valuable thing, because if you acquire a property and you sit on it, I mean, when you close, you need to have the shovel ready, right? You need to have the hammers ready.
Oh, yeah.
So if you even wait, a month, you're losing money, because you have those holding and carrying costs and all of that type of stuff. But, I would say the benefits are endless, and I lost track of what I was even talking about.
So the benefits of an agent.
See, I get so excited. Oh, right.
I do
So the
too.
numbers, and then also we do have the systems and processes. So we do have the full analysis that we'll provide to be able to show them in black and white what we're projecting will happen. Because as you know, in this business, every day, whereas we used to look at things like what sold over the last year, and then what sold, then it went to 9 months, then it went to 6 months, then it went to 3 months. Now, literally, if I tell you I'm going to put your house on the market, or I'm telling you as an investor that we're going to project to put your home on the market by August, if we miss that deadline, those numbers can completely change.
Not necessarily in a positive way, as we found out the last couple of years.
Yes.
So what are some benefits investors can get working with good, competent agents like yourself?
Yeah. So like I was saying, just the fact that if they have another life, which hopefully they do, if you have a really good agent, you can download them with what you're looking for and what your goals are, and they're out there doing the work. So you can focus on whatever it is that's your passion. And as, or your job, as people are trying to exit and make this become their thing, it helps that you have somebody out there doing it and you can focus on what you're doing. Because you can't, there's a certain time you can quit your job, which we've had people, they were able to quit their jobs. But the first day is probably not it. So you have somebody out there just really going through everything for you.
Makes sense.
Love it. Thank you for answering that. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice about real estate, what would it be?
Oh
That's
my
a good one.
gosh. Start sooner. I was
The question everybody always says.
I know. Everyone says start sooner.
I look at, some of the agents starting and they're like, I just graduated college and I'm here. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'm like, God, I'm so jealous. Because, I was the classic, I've worked since I was, 13 or 14 and worked hard. I was always successful. I was the one, the manager at like 17 and and all this stuff. But I did get sucked into the corporate world, which I wouldn't trade that, because when I think about who I am today, it has everything to do with the people and the companies that I work with. And I'm going to use Nike as an example. I was head of certain territories for Nike, and ran one of the biggest territories down south out of Orlando. And like when you get immersed in the spirit of a brand that is so courageous like that, it really reworks your brain.
Wow.
And I think I've always been that person.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I grew up with all boys and I didn't want to stay inside, so I had to go play, go riding ATVs and stuff, get cut up and scare my mom to death. But, I've always been one that I jump and I'll figure it out on the way down.
Love it. Massive imperfect action. Let's go.
Yeah.
I love
but,
that.
you need to be willing to take the consequences.
Sure.
And I think my superpower is moving through any mistakes very quickly, assessing what went right, what went wrong. And I go back to Nike. We literally used to sit in meetings and we had to, if you didn't come up with something that you learned from there, or you profess something that went wrong that was a learning, like people were like, what is wrong with them? Like, why aren't you bringing it?
Yeah.
So I think real estate is the same way. You need to be able to say, this went right, this went wrong, and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Like literally, I think about something that happened that was bad for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then I literally I don't harp over things.
Yeah.
I don't sit there and roll around in things, which is kind of bad because I don't have a patience for that either. And that's something I have to work on. But yeah.
But I think that's probably, key to why you're so successful, because I'm thinking back to like a lot of the real estate investing association meetings that we go to. And you always find that there's so many people sitting there that want to do something, but they're just like so afraid that when they start, they're going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that our success is because like he doesn't care if he's going to make a mistake. I mean, he just like, we made mistakes,
all
the
day,
entire
every day.
way. And it's like just being okay with, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to learn from them. Yeah. Some of them won't cost us anything. Some might be expensive education, but we're going to learn something and we're just going to like move on. So I completely agree with that.
Love it. All right, Shannon. So what's your next big goal in real estate, and how do you see investor relationships playing a role in it?
Yeah, so it's the expansion of the brand. So the Prosperity Group, if you visit our website, www.theprosperitygroup.us, we do have our hand in commercial and residential, and the next big thing is growing. So we are looking for people to join the team. We're looking for investors to help. I think of this is such a terrible analogy. Shannon, don't do this, especially.
I have to do it now. You put it out there.
What is it?
But I say it all the time. We're kind of like Match.com.
Yeah.
If you haven't something you want to achieve, if an agent, learn, like we bring people together with what fits them. But it's really about growth. and just to kind of go to the prosperity group. So there's a lot that's a lot deeper with the prosperity group. We do a lot around philanthropy. We're very much about sustainability. If you visit our website, like everything that we're doing is about fueling how we can give back to the world. So we give a tree at each closing to plant. We do tree drives and things like that, which I know I was literally laughed at by someone. They know who they are.
Shame on you.
At the idea of giving trees at closing, they're like, that is so weird.
No, I like
I'm
it.
like,
I like
no,
it.
actually, it's not.
I would love that.
Yeah, but we do a lot around reforestation and so forth with the Arbor Day Foundation. And we also fund a scholarship for students that are pursuing things around prosperity. So everything from the environment to human rights and so forth. And then we do have a fund that we use called the Prosperity Fund for, good deeds and so forth. So why am I saying this? It's because our platform is real estate. It's what we do every day. But it is really to fuel the goodness that we can put into this world. And I'm not just saying this. This is true stuff.
Yeah.
And I really challenge anyone who's on my team or is an investor, and I'm going to answer your question because I didn't quite answer the investor part yet, that I'm going to help you make money, but I want to understand what you're going to do after you've got all the money that you need.
Yeah.
What is your thing that you want to do in this world? And that's just really the stuff that makes me so happy to get up each day.
Love
But with investors, really the way I look at it is everyone's an investor. Your first home is an investment.
Well
That's
said.
the first start.
Yeah.
So when we sit down with our clients, it's okay, where are you? Have you bought your first home? Okay, you're on step 2.
Right.
I wish at step 1 I was able to tell you to buy a multi and take advantage
right.
Yeah.
of all of the low rates.
Yeah.
But now that you're here, we can go from there. So
Awesome. So if people want to join your team or
Yes.
be part of your tree nonprofit organization, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
yeah, so they can go to our website at www. And my son tells me all the time, Mom, you don't have to say www anymore. But I'm going
kids
to.
do that
He's
too.
going to make fun of me.
Boomer. I'm just kidding.
The
That's what our kids call us.
prosperitygroup.us. And you can also email us. The email address is on the website, or you can call me direct. And
Okay.
I'm sure wherever this is posted, we can put
Yes,
that
for
number.
sure.
We'll put that number for sure. Shannon,
Yes.
thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
a part
Yeah,
of our
thank
podcast today. It was a
you.
great
Thank you.
episode. That's it for this week, guys. We will see you next week. I hope you got a ton of value out of here because I know we did. Have a great week, everybody. See you
Bye,
next
guys.
week. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Investor Agent Synergy Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share with others who could benefit from stronger partnerships in real estate. And a big thank you to our awesome sponsor, New Hampshire Home Buyers, helping homeowners with fair professional solutions since 2017. For more information about New Hampshire Home Buyers, how they can help you or someone you know, please go visit nhomebuyers.net. Until next time, remember, success in real estate is better together. See you on the next episode of Investor Agent Synergy Podcast.